Congratulations and welcome to the Bike Friday family. You have joined a special group of cyclists and travelers from around the world. This is the Green Gear community. Your Bike Friday is your membership card and gives you access to all sorts of benefits, including travel support, 24-hour technical assistance, membership in our internet community, bicycle and travel specials, and of course, the thousands of friendly members the world over. At Green Gear Cycling, we offer solutions for your travel needs. We have designed bikes and accessories for you to open a world of possibilities, to go anywhere you want to go. Your custom Bike Friday is being created for you right now. In preparation for its arrival, we've sent you this video to show you how easy it is to use your Bike Friday. In this video, you will learn how to assemble your new Bike Friday and use the accessories you ordered. We'll show you some folding and maintenance tips, and of course, how to repack your Bike Friday again. And we'll introduce some Green Gear community features. If you have any questions about assembling and using your Bike Friday, please call us. Our technical staff is always available to assist you. Just call 1-800-777-0258, or outside the United States, please call the U.S. country code and 541-687-0487. You can even call outside of our regular business hours to have your questions answered or to have emergency parts sent to you anywhere in the world. We'd love to hear from you.
This segment will show you how to assemble your custom-built Tandem Two'sDay. In this video, you will discover the assembly and packing process to be simple and direct. Because you have a custom bicycle built just for you, there may be slight differences from bike to bike. You may want to experiment a bit to figure out which is your own best method. This video is just a guideline. Your living room or garage will be the best location to assemble your tandem for the first time. Keep this video handy while you assemble your new bike. All the tools and materials you need to get on the road are supplied. First, open both travel case lids. One of the first items you will discover is the packing blanket. The blanket can be used to assemble the tandem on it, to keep small parts from being lost. It will transform bedspreads in hotel rooms into workbenches, and it will also take up some of the extra room a tandem has in the suitcase. As you unpack your Tandem Two'sDay, place your packing materials into the lid of the suitcase. The crush protector is one of the most important packing pieces. It is designed to transfer the load of stacked luggage through the case and not through the bike. Remove the crush protector by pulling on the upper flange while gently twisting up and out. Put the crush protector in the suitcase lid. Start to remove many of the smaller accessories, such as the trailer wheel, the captain stem in the red felt bag, a fender, the yellow trailer bags, and other pieces. Pull out the handlebars and let them hang by their cables over the outside of the case. If you ordered a trailer, you will find a black contraption that is the stacker unit. This holds the two suitcases together on the trailer. Remove the crush protector from the other case. Then remove the front wheel. In one of the cases you will find a bag with extra parts, component warranties, and instructions, as well as other important pieces. Put it aside for now. The gray felt bag contains the stoker stem. Put the stem aside. Open your toolkit. In the Tandem toolkit, you will find a small bag of hardware to mount your front or rear racks, as well as the timing chain. There will also be a pair of cotton gloves to keep your hands clean. Your bike is new and clean now, but it won't always be like this. You will find a Bondus 4mm ball-end driver for installing accessories. The folding tool has a set of Metrix hex key wrenches to assemble your bike, as well as a slotted and Phillips tip screwdriver. You will use this tool a great deal for assembly and repair. The strap is used to hold the two suitcases together if you have a travel trailer. You will also find a combination pedal and headset wrench with some very small hex wrenches used to tighten the shaft collars on your brake and shift cables. You will find two light blue bags. These are for your pedals. The suspension seat post, as well as the loose handlebars, are for the stoker. The rear rack will be in the same suitcase with the rear end of the tandem frame. Unscrew the white dowel over the rear derailleur. This is the rear derailleur standoff and protects the rear derailleur during shipping. Also, unclip 1 or 2 clear vinyl tubes from the chainstays. Lift out the tandem rear end. Pivot the frame around the hinge so that the 2 small fork tips engage the frame barrel with the quick release. Then lift up the seat mast. Remove the blue vinyl tube and set the seat mast all the way back. Close the quick release. If the drive chain has fallen off, set it back on the chain ring. Remove any remaining blue protector tubes. Remove the front half of the tandem from the other suitcase. Begin to fold the frame together. Remove the packing piece between the captain's seat mast fork tips and the blue protector tubes from the front of the frame. Bring the captain's seat mast up so that the fork tips line up with the tips on the frame. Now fold the frame the rest of the way together so that the quick release pin is seated in the seat mast slot. Close the quick release. Remove any remaining packing materials on the frame. Check to make sure that the frame binder bolts are loose, and then couple the frame together starting at the bottom tube. Then connect the upper tube and pull the frame together while bouncing it lightly. Stop when there is no gap left on the top tube. Ignore any gap on the bottom tube. Then tighten the upper binder bolt on the frame securely. Leave the lower binder bolts loose for now. Separate the handlebars and untangle the cables. Now open the front brake so the front wheel may be installed. To open the V-brake, squeeze the 2 brake arms together while pulling the elbow-shaped tube up and out. Loosen the axle nuts on the front wheel, several turns on each side. Install the front wheel with the brake arm on the left side of the bike. Notice that the inside of the left fork leg there is a small loop to hold the brake arm. Guide the front wheel into the dropouts, and at the same time guide the tip of the brake arm into the loop on the fork. Using the custom Bike Friday wrench, tighten down the axle nuts on each side securely. Set the kickstand down. The tandem will now stand on its own. Close the front brake by pushing one arm against the rim and pulling the elbow tube above it back firmly. Then lift up on the small box-shaped piece with a finger so that the elbow tube rests inside it. The keyhole-shaped slot in the box is for the brake cable to go through. Wiggle the cable a little to make sure everything is seated. From the red felt bag, remove the stem. The unpainted bottom of the stem will slip into the tube on the fork known as the steerer tube. Inside the stem collar there is a stainless steel pin welded in that engages a slot at the back of the steerer tube. Slip the stem into the steerer tube. Turn the stem until you feel the pin engage the slot. To seat the stem, push down firmly on the head of the stem. You want to make sure the stem is all the way down, then tighten the quick release. Remove the striped vinyl tube from the ends of your handlebars. The two halves of the handlebar are going to join together over a pin that is glued into one side. Slide the bars into the head of the stem and press them firmly together, so they come to a stop in the middle of the stem. Set the angle of the handlebars. You will want to experiment a bit to find which is most comfortable for you. Use your folding tool to tighten the handlebar. The small button head screw on the stem is just there to hold in the shim and keep the handlebars centered. You do not need to remove or adjust this screw at any time. Instead, you want to tighten the large bolt under the head of the stem. When done, check to make sure that your handlebars do not move easily. Now that your handlebars are tight, connect the drag brake cable to the front hub. A bar end shift lever on the left side of the handlebar controls the drag brake. Check to make sure the shifter is set so that it is all the way down. Carefully seat the threaded barrel over the end of the cable housing. Hook the box-shaped piece over the lower arm, pull up, and then seat the cable mount on the yoke of the brake arm. Move the shift lever to check the brake action on the hub. Now we will attach the rear brake cable. The little springs on some of your cables are just there to keep the cables seated in the cable stops when the bike is packed. On the left side of the top tube, seat the loose piece of cable housing into the two cable stops on either side of the captain's mast. Next, seat the cable housing attached to the rear brake into the cable tube and the cable stop on the frame. Now screw the cable splitter together finger tight. Then close the rear brake just like you did in front. Remove the timing chain from the bag and untangle a few loops. Locate two silver master links on the chain. These links are timed to match a small dimple on the outside of each timing chain ring. Start on one crankset. Hook the chain over the chain ring, keeping the silver link over the dimple. Repeat with the other chain ring and roll the chain on. Now adjust the timing chain tension and tighten the bottom tube at the same time. Press firmly down on the top tube to tighten the timing chain, and then tighten the lower binder bolts securely at the same time. Next, hook the cable stop assembly on the 2 screws on the bottom tube. You do not need to tighten or loosen these screws ever. Just hook on the assembly. Now screw together matching upper and lower cable splitters firmly. If you are unable to connect the splitters, then check to make sure that the cable has its housing fully seated in all of the cable stops from the shifter to the rear derailleur or hub. Check to make sure that the splitters are screwed together all the way. Sand or grit may keep them from tightening properly, which would affect your shifting adjustment. Remove the clear vinyl tube from the captain's seat post. If you have not installed a saddle yet, do so at this time. From the gray felt bag, select the stoker stem and slide it on the seat post with the head pointing up. Install the post into the captain's seat mast. Set the saddle so that the top is level to the ground. Use a ruler if necessary. Then set your saddle height and tighten the clamp bolt on the frame using the folding tool. Install the stoker's seat post in the rear seat mast. You will probably have a suspension seat post and need a special shim for it. You will find the shim in your bag of accessories. Slide it into the seat mast with the slot in the shim lined up with the slot in the seat mast. Then set the stoker saddle height and tighten the binder bolt on the mast. Select the stoker handlebars. Just like the captain's bars, they are joined in the middle of the stem with a pin. Slide the bars into the head of the stem and press them firmly together, so they come to a stop in the middle of the stem. Set the angle of the handlebars and tighten the clamp bolts. Now set the height of the stoker handlebars by raising or lowering the stoker stem. Find a comfortable position and tighten the stem on the captain's seat post. You can also adjust the projection of the stoker stem. Loosen the binder bolt on the stem, set your custom position, and tighten the bolt again. The last thing to install are the pedals. You may have already selected your own pedal system. Most pedal axles are labeled R for right and L for left. The right-hand side has a right-hand thread and the pedal is screwed in by turning the spindle clockwise. Use the supplied custom wrench to tighten your pedals. A really slick trick is to start the pedal threads by hand, then using your wrench rotate the crank arm backward while holding the pedal axle still with your wrench. Then tighten the pedal. Repeat with the left pedal. The left side has a left-hand thread and the pedal is installed by turning it counterclockwise. Now install the other set of pedals. Store the loose packing materials in the suitcase. Add any accessories you need such as front or rear racks, bottle cages, and a trailer. And you're ready to ride.
To assemble your Bike Friday trailer, open your empty suitcase and stand it on its end. Remove the trailer parts from the yellow bags. Slide the axle ends over the T-bar. Remove the thumb nuts and one washer from each axle. Hang the axle onto the suitcase by inserting the 2 studs through the 2 matching holes in the suitcase. Be sure to leave 1 washer between the case and the trailer frame. Inside the case, add a washer and a thumb nut loosely. Pull the trailer tongue from its yellow bag and remove the thumb nut and 1 washer. Install the tongue onto the end of the T-bar and slip the stud through the remaining hole in the case. Install the washer and thumb nut to the inside of the case. Tighten all the nuts securely. Close the case and set it on its side. From the trailer axle, remove the clevis pin, the washer, and the O-ring. Slide a trailer wheel onto the axle. Be certain you have the side with the recessed bearing towards the suitcase. The outside of the trailer wheel and bearing should be flush. After the trailer wheel, install the O-ring, then the washer, and lastly, the clevis pin. We recommend pushing the clevis pin all the way through to the end ring on the axle. Repeat on the other side. When assembling the tandem trailer frame, follow the regular trailer frame instructions. However, install the stacker frame first. Set the stacker frame so the tubes are on the bottom with a T-bar in the middle. Slide the axles through the tubes so that they engage the T-bar. Now install the lower travel case, just like normal, on the 3 studs with the thumb nuts. Next, attach the trailer wheels to the axles. Then add the second travel case to the stacker frame using the 2 studs and thumb nuts. The travel case handles will be on the same side. Select the strap from your toolkit and slide the small loop over the trailer tongue. Loop the strap through the pull handle of the upper suitcase and fasten the buckle. You can access the lower suitcase by undoing the buckle on the strap and then pivoting the upper case to the back. Your trailer is now ready to follow you anywhere. Attaching your travel trailer to your Bike Friday is swift and simple. With one hand, grasp the foam grip of the trailer tongue, pull the knurled collar back, and then firmly push the tongue over the trailer nipple on the frame. When the trailer tongue is all the way on the nipple, release the knurled collar. Your trailer is now safely attached to your Bike Friday. To remove the trailer, grab the foam grip on the trailer tongue and pull the knurled collar back. The trailer will pop off. If you ordered a front rack, you will find the 2 rack sides and a long crosspiece with a bag of small hardware. You will need a 4mm hex key wrench to assemble the rack. Inside the plastic bag you will find 6 bolts. Take one of the short bolts and place it through an upper eyelet in one side of the rack. Make certain the bolt head is in the recessed side of the eyelet. The bolt head should be flush with the outside of the rack. Screw on the long crosspiece, but don't tighten it all the way. A drop of oil on the threads may help assembly. Repeat with the other half of the front rack using another short bolt. The rack should now be held together symmetrically. Insert one of the long bolts through the lower rack eyelet from the outside. Add one of the short black spacers over the long bolt on the inside of the rack. Repeat on the other side. Slip the rack over the fork. The long cross piece will be over the front of the fork. Screw the long bolts into the threaded eyelets on the fork dropouts loosely. Add the last two short bolts through the middle rack eyelets and into the rack brazons on the back of the fork. Now tighten all the bolts securely. To install the rear rack on your Bike Friday, first remove the mounting hardware from the rear rack bag. Slide a screw through the bottom of the rear rack stays and into the eyelets over the rear dropouts. Keep the screws loose for now. Lean the rack back. Remove the two screws on the wishbone right behind the seat mast. Fold the rack forward and insert the screws through the rack stays and into the wishbone again. Tighten all the screws securely. Each fender is held on with one bolt. To install the rear fender, remove the single bolt on the wishbone. Select the fender with a clear extension. Insert the bolt through the tab on the fender and tighten down with your hex key wrench. You may have to bend the fender slightly to get it to sit over the wheel without touching. Remove the single bolt from behind the fork to install the front fender. Your front fender has an index pin on it. This pin sits in the empty lower hole in the fork. If you have a pocket rocket, the pin will sit in the back of the front brake mounting nut. This keeps the fender sitting straight. Tighten the screw down securely. You may need to adjust the angle of the fender by bending it slightly. To remove your 3x7 equipped rear wheel, you should first shift both shifter controls into the highest gears so the chain will be on the smallest cog in the hub in overdrive. Next, release the rear brakes. To release the 3x7 shift cable, press on the copper-colored tab at the end of the black plastic cable anchor near the rear wheel. The black anchor will slide off of the small shifter chain called an indicator chain. Use your combination headset pedal wrench or a 15mm wrench to loosen both hub axle nuts several turns. Once you have the nuts loose, gently pull back on the rear derailleur and lift the bike up. The rear wheel will slide out of the dropouts. To reinstall the rear wheel, slide the wheel into the rear end of your Bike Friday. Pull back on the rear derailleur and set the chain onto the smallest cog so that the chain loops over the cog set. As you let the bike down on the hub axle, be sure to keep the axle washers on the outside of the dropouts. The small inward bent tab on the axle washers needs to be on the bottom of the axle and facing inward. Tighten the two axle nuts with your wrench securely. Next, close the rear brake. Then pedal forward or backward one pedal stroke to make sure the hub is shifted into its default overdrive position. To connect the cable again, slip the black cable anchor over the small indicator chain that comes out of the hub until there is no slack left in the shift cable. You will hear a clicking sound. Don't actually pull the indicator chain out past where you feel spring resistance. Only remove the slack in the system. If you need to loosen the cable slightly, press the tab again and slide the chain out a notch or two. Periodically, drip some oil into the hub through the end of the axle where the chain comes out. About 2 or 3 times a year, add about a teaspoon of oil, and your 3x7 hub will last a long time. Be sure to call us if you have more questions about the 3x7. To open a V-brake on your Bike Friday, press the brake arms together against the rim. With one hand, push in on the brake arm under the cable tube with your thumb while pulling back the other way on the elbow-shaped tube above. You should then be able to pivot the box that holds the elbow tube down. To close the V-brake, push the brake arm back against the rim and pull the elbow tube back. With a forefinger, you should be able to pivot the box up and over the cable guide. Once you have the brake closed, wiggle the cable slightly to make sure everything is seated properly. The black wire behind the brake arm is the brake spring. Sometimes the brake springs will need to be centered if both brake shoes do not retract equally from the rim. To do so, select the smallest hex key wrench on your folding tool set and find the little screw behind the brake arm. Tighten the screw a half turn at a time on the side where the brake shoe does not completely retract from the rim. If this doesn't help enough, loosen the screw on the other brake arm, the one where the brake shoe is too far away from the rim. Repeat until you have the brake centered. This is more common only when the bike is new. After a while, the brakes will settle in. Not only does the Tandem Two'sDay travel with ease in its 2 suitcases, it also folds into a convenient travel bag in under a minute. No more need for awkward roof racks and other carriers. Just pop the Tandem into nearly any car trunk. To start, open the travel bag and lay it out on the ground. Next, open all frame quick releases. Then, uncouple the rear brake cable splitter along the middle of the top tube. Unhook the cable housing pieces around the seat masts. Fold the stoker seat mast forward. You may need to slightly bend the water bottle cage to the side as you fold the seat mast. Lift up the rear of the Tandem and allow the rear end to fold under the Tandem. Leave the kickstand down as you fold it. Turn the front wheel around. Pull the stem out of the frame and then lift the front of the Tandem. Begin to fold the front of the Tandem under the frame. Now pivot the captain's seat mast back so it rests on the top tube. Continue folding the front of the Tandem so that it is completely under the frame. Rest the stem against the bike and lift it onto the open travel bag. Cover the bike with the bag flap and zip it up. Stand the bike up and close the bag the rest of the way with the buckles and straps. Clip the shoulder strap across the bag and you are ready to go. An extra minute spent turning the stoker handlebars to the side would allow the tandem to fold even smaller. A unique feature of the Bike Friday community is our referral system. Here is how it works. Inside your instruction manual, you will find a set of referral cards with your name and the name of your sales representative printed on them. Carry these cards with you when you travel or ride. Inevitably, you will get asked about your bike, how it works, and where you got it. If you like our products and service, please feel free to hand out these cards to interested people. Have your inquiring customer mail the card in to us for more information. If a sale results from your referral, we will send you a reward as a way of saying thank you. This is our way of supporting the Bike Friday community. If you run out of cards, please call us. We will send you some more right away. Don't leave home without them.
Packing your Tandem Two'sDay into a travel case is easy. With a little practice, you should be able to comfortably pack your Tandem in about 20 to 30 minutes. First, remove all of your mounted accessories except for the rear fender and kickstand. Most of the water bottle cages can stay on the frame. Remove all the pedals using your custom Bike Friday wrench. The right-hand pedals have a right-hand thread and are removed by turning the pedal spindle in a counterclockwise rotation. The left pedals have a left-hand thread and are removed by turning the pedal spindle in a clockwise rotation. Nest the pairs of pedals together and place them into the small light blue felt bags. Place the bags aside. Next, remove the timing chain. Loosen the two binder bolts on the bottom tube of the tandem. To assist in removing the timing chain, squeeze the two halves of the chain to pull the bottom tube together and then lightly retighten one of the pinch bolts. This will give you some more slack in the chain. Derail the chain and place it into a plastic bag. Store it in the toolkit behind the gloves. Disconnect the rear brake cable splitter at the top tube. Slide the two pieces of cable housing at the seat mast out of their cable stops. Set the shifters so that your tandem is in its highest gears. This is when the chain is on the smallest cog and the 3x7 is in the overdrive position. Then disconnect the two shift cable splitters on the bottom tube. Now add some of the blue vinyl packing pieces to the frame. They will be labeled as where they go. Loosen the seat post clamp to remove the stoker saddle and seat post. Once you have the saddle height set properly, you may want to consider marking the seat post with some electrical or other colored tape at the top of the seat mast. This will help assembly in the future. Remove the seat post and place it into the clear vinyl tube. There may be a saddle cover. Slide it over the saddle. Then set it aside. To remove the stoker handlebars, loosen the two binder bolts on the stem. Remove the handlebars from the stem and use the striped vinyl tube to cover the ends of the handlebars. A couple of rubber bands are used to hold them on. Loosen the captain's seat post clamp to remove the saddle and seat post. You can leave the stoker stem attached to the captain's seat post, although it does take up a bit more room in the travel case. Cover the end of the seat post with the clear tube and then cover the stoker stem with a gray felt bag. Next, disconnect the drag brake cable. Set the brake control all the way down. Then lift up the brake arm and unseat the cable stop on the brake arm. Open the front brake and remove the front wheel. When you have the wheel out, close the brake again. This will keep the brake cables from flopping around as you pack the tandem. Loosen all the binder bolts that hold the frame together, both top and bottom. Select the lollipop-shaped tool. This is a camming device that will separate the two halves of the tandem. Under the top tube at the joint between the frame halves, there is a pin. Set the tool over the pin and rotate the tool so that it presses against the binder bolt. The tandem frame should now come easily apart. Loosen the large bolt under the head of the stem to remove the handlebars. The small button head screw on the stem is just there to retain the black shim that your handlebars go through. It does not need to be removed at any time. Use the hex key wrench on the supplied folding tool to loosen the handlebar binder bolt. Remove the handlebars from the stem. Put the bars together and cover the ends of the handlebars with the striped vinyl tubes. A couple of rubber bands are used to hold them on. To remove the stem, open the quick release on the stem clamp and pull up firmly on the stem. If the stem does not come off easily, use the large end of the headset pedal wrench as a lever. Place the wrench under the stem clamp from the front and gently pry up. The stem should pop free. On new bikes, your stem may be tight when removing it. This is normal and will get easier with time. Slip the stem into the red felt bag and put it aside. Now fold the front half of the tandem. Turn the fork to the right and open the quick release. Begin to fold the frame. Once the frame has been partially folded, cover the captain's seat mast with the blue protector tube and then fold the mast all the way back. Finish folding the front half of the tandem. Set the folded tandem in one of the travel cases. Note that the crank is on the left side of the case with the chainring up and the fork is on the right side. Let the handlebars hang by their cables out of the case. Note, one of the trailer wheels has already been placed in the bottom of the case in the upper left corner under the tandem. Place the stacker in the case so that it hooks over the tandem in the upper left corner of the case, and the long part covers the crankset. Nest the handlebars together and place them in the middle of the tandem under the stacker frame. Select the captain's seat post. There are many places to put it, one of the better ones being under the fork along the right side of the case. The seat post will be pointing towards the front of the suitcase with the large end of the saddle pressed against the outside of the case. The short yellow bag with the trailer assembly will fit along the right side of the case along the captain's stem in the red felt bag. Set the trailer tongue in the long yellow felt bag in the case with the long part along the front of the case and the tail under the stacker frame. The crush protector is one of your most important packing pieces. It is designed to transfer the load of stacked luggage through the case and not through the bike. Slip the loose flange through the frame and place it in the middle of the bottom of the case. You will also have a short white dowel with a screw on each side. This piece fits between the fork tips of the captain's seat mast and protects them from damage. Snap it in place when you remember to. Add the remaining trailer wheel to the top of the travel case, along with the packing blanket. Work the crush protector post through the trailer wheel and tandem, and then press the post into the lower flange socket. This will keep the trailer wheel from moving around. Check to make sure the lid will close easily. Now pack the rear end of your tandem. Slide the blue vinyl tube over the stoker seat mast and open the frame quick release. Fold the seat mast all the way forward. Then fold the rear wheel under the frame. Point the right crank arm at the rear rack bolt on the wishbone. Now place the bicycle into the suitcase. Notice that the crank is on the right side of the suitcase in the 11 o'clock position and the derailleur side is up. Take the stoker seat post and place it in the upper right corner of the case. Keep the nose of the saddle pointed towards your crank and the large end towards the back of the suitcase. Slip the seat post over the rear wheel and parallel to the chain. The end of the seat post will rest against the cog set. Add the short clear tubes to the chainstay and seat stay of the tandem rear end. Place the rear rack in the upper left corner of the case with the two stays pointing to your right. The white dowel with the stud in the end is a rear derailleur standoff. It protects the rear derailleur from damage during shipping. It screws into the rear rack eyelet over the right dropout. Add a crush protector flange to the bottom of the case. Set the stoker bars inside the rear rack along the left side of the case. Place your pedals and other loose accessories in the various corners of the case. Keep as many of the loose items together so they lock each other in and don't fly around. Store all of your various tools in the tool pouch and roll it up. Take the front wheel and place it on the top of the tandem. Thread one of the rear rack stays through the spokes of the front wheel and hook the rim over the rear derailleur standoff. Work the crush protector post through the front wheel and tandem and press the post into its lower flange socket. There is still enough room in the case to store many extra items such as shoes, clothing, and maybe even helmets. Close the lids. Check to make sure that all the cables and felt bags are tucked away. Start latching the lids at one end and work your way to the other side. You are now ready to travel easily and conveniently with your own custom tandem. It's time to hit the road.
This has been Wolfgang Moritz,
And Marcus Bethel.
and we hope you found this video helpful. Be sure to call us if you have any questions.
We wish you the best on all your Bike Friday travels.